Well, who knows? We'll see. I guess stepping down and step away and reevaluate things and see where we're at. I'm a free agent. I'm in the transfer portal. So yeah, it's a different feel. But like I said, I'm at peace, and I did not want to be that guy that overstayed his welcome and people just saying, hey, when's this guy going to leave? That was not my intention ever, and I hope I didn't do that. I'm sure with some people I did do that, but to me the timing was right.
Welcome on in, everybody. Happy December 26th to you. Thanks for being on the program here with us. We are live here at KSL, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome into what has become quite the interesting day here at Broadcast House in the state of Utah and the state of Michigan. We've got you covered here. Alex Kirry, Lloyd Olsen in studio here with me as Alex Napolis is. We've all been all hands on deck today. Every person basically available here at the station. If they're not here, they're coming on because we're talking about the possibility of Kyle Whittingham heading to Ann Arbor to be the head coach at the University of Michigan. When we all zigged, Coach Whittingham zagged, and here we are talking about the all-time winningest coach at the University of Utah, heading to Michigan possibly. It's not even just about possibly. It's about even what OCs is he going to take? What kind of scorched earth is going to be left behind if Kyle Whittingham does end up heading to Michigan? And the leading name, according to so many sources out there, it's not just about Lloyd, whether or not Kyle Whittingham might go to Michigan. It's like, who's he going to take with him? Now, nothing has been actually everything's being reported, but nothing is being confirmed yet. I would anticipate with all of this news kind of being thrown around there. I mean, it's not – we didn't get a letter for the Players Tribune, Lloyd, but we did get Coach Whittingham. Last week, of course, he heard the sound coming in when he finally gave the press conference. And he said, I'm stepping down, stepping away. I've hit the transfer portal. We all kind of chuckled about it, and yet here we are talking about the transfer portal really being a thing, and that might be the case as the University of Michigan – now, isn't just looking for somebody to help him out, looking for somebody to clean this place up. I'm shocked because I didn't know if he wanted to have that kind of a responsibility to clean a place up.
No, I didn't think so. I didn't think so either. There's a lot of heavy – let's call it heavy lifting. I mean, Michigan is Michigan. They've got money. That place – I mean, there is some cleaning up they have to do. But I did not think that we, obviously we were taking some days, had some days to make up for we had the long football season, but you know what? That's what we do. We, if news breaks and, we need to be on air to talk about it, that's what we're going to do.
And helping us out right now, Patrick Kinahan joining us.
We have hosts everywhere,
We do. We got everybody,
everywhere.
Boots on the ground everywhere. Scotty G in Tucson, ready to call a bowl game. And, guys, as we heard this one, and PK, your story just went up on KSL.com. You can go kind of take a look at this because, and the whole idea would be, I don't know, we've all been shocked because I think we made the mistake of guessing for Kyle Whittingham what his future would look like. How would this thing look if he were to leave the University of Utah and head to Michigan?
Well, I suppose that what we think is different than what we thought last week. But at the same time, I think it was last Tuesday. Yeah, it was last Tuesday. I was coming back from California, and my plane out of Long Beach was delayed because of fog. So I had some time, and I was bored. And people like me can be dangerous when they're bored. So I started opening up the phone, talking to people, and I received a text from Kyle that said, hey, basically, I'm free to do what I want. And so at that point, which would have been last Tuesday, it was obvious that the Michigan job would be in play. And I haven't spoken to him since. I've spoken to a family member this morning that said these are exciting times. And so I believe he's going to take the job, and it's a matter of who he takes with him. And he doesn't have a huge circle of contacts because he's coached basically in Idaho and in Utah for 40 years. And so a lot of those contacts are people that we know. People at BYU staff, which seems like half the staff, if not more, is from Utah, or at least has Utah connections, University of Utah, and then certainly the state of Utah. And Jason Beck, why wouldn't you bring him? And why wouldn't you bring Dampier? Dampier did not exactly shut the door on him coming back next year. He hasn't announced his re-signing, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it's what we do in college sports these days. They announce they're re-signing at a place they're already at. It's totally ridiculous. And college players being eligible from being drafted, and now they can play in college. So it's totally upside down. So who's to say that he doesn't get Jason Beck doesn't go to Michigan, lights it up, and he's coaching waiting for the 66, 67, 68-year-old. That seems plausible. I was also heard Dampier to ASU, for that matter, because his high school coach is a full-time coach on the ASU staff. So we shall see how that plays out. So you got all those things going on. And Kyle, when he got the Utah job in the first place, that night I talked to him, and he asked me, he said, what job do you think I should take? And I said, well, I think your heart's at Utah. And obviously he ends up taking Utah. I haven't spoken to him today. I haven't texted with him today. But I think there's some other issues that I just simply will not go into that will have him being announced as the coach most likely later today.
Scotty G on the road calling a football game today, but obviously this news hits all of us with a lot of interesting angles, all of the things that we've seen kind of play out. And again, it's not just about a program that needs some cleaning up. It's a program that wants to have success immediately. They have tons of talent. The only question about, the quarterback situation could be if Devin Dampier goes to Michigan, what do you do with Bryce Underwood, who reportedly is a, $10 to $12 million man or whatever it is over his career? I don't know what that looks like, but when you saw something like this, Scotty, did you think, oh my goodness, there's no way that this is going to be true? I think we all sort of didn't want to believe that, oh no, he's not going to be able to take, or he doesn't want to take this job, but deciding for Kyle Whittingham's never been a good route to take.
Yeah, no, and the interesting thing in all of this is this all seemed fishy. I mean, right from the start, it seemed fishy. The press release saying that he's stepping down instead of retiring. So, and then when Kyle got that media availability and he's dropping in transfer portal, he's saying, I'm a free agent. I want to see what this is like. And so that was your first indication, like, okay, for whatever reason, it didn't end well at Utah. And I don't know what happened at the University of Utah, but the fact is, if Kyle Whittingham had gas left in the tank, he needs to be the head coach of the University of Utah. Plain and simple. End of story. If he wants to keep coaching, then he needs to be at the University of Utah. And somebody screwed that up. Now, I don't know who. I'm not blaming anybody. To be Kyle Whittingham as the head coach at the University of Utah. And Morgan Scalley, I know that his time has come, and Morgan, I think, will be great. Morgan will do a tremendous job. But it just blows me away that Kyle Whittingham is still a head coach in the FCS football or FBS football, and he's not going to be at the University of Utah.
It's wild because I think that we anticipated, a guy riding off into the sunset, PK. That's what we were preparing for, and he wasn't prepared for it. Why is it that taking a job like this is going to have, kind of some messy implications? Who knows what the future might hold? That's got to be made attractive to him, and it's not just the money part for him. I would assume that he would like to have a lot of things in place to where he could have success at the University of Michigan. And, of course, the winningest program in the history of college football. They want him to have success very, very soon. How do you do that with the possibility? Is there even a world where sanctions even happen anymore in college football?
Sanctions? Well, what are you? What are you like? Is it the year 2000 here? Sanctions? Hey, come on. Is there even a body? We have Bronco Mendenhall. Scotty can talk about this. We have Bronco Mendenhall weekly, and he would just make a joke of the tampering. And there was a hotline. He called it a phantom hotline, and nobody ever answered it. Or if they answered it, if you left some message there, I don't know if they ever heard it, or they certainly didn't enforce it. I mean, I had a coach tell me 2 weeks ago that I asked him, I said, the transfer portal doesn't start till January 2nd. Are you allowed to contact people until before then? He said, no, but everybody's doing it. He said, it's the schools that win do that. And we know Michigan wins, and we know that, my gosh, they had on the field and off the field issues. So Kyle, if you're going to go, you don't go to New Mexico State. No offense to the other Aggies. I love them dearly. You're going to go to Michigan, and you're basically, let's call it like it is here with Kyle Whittingham. Who's to say that he doesn't win big there? And what he brings is a ton of credibility. He's a Hall of Fame coach. How many times do you have a situation like this and you replace him a week later with a Hall of Fame coach? That would be approximately never. It's literally never happened. But this crazy world in which we live in, clearly he was prodded to retire, but they didn't force him out enough to actually do it. They probably thought he would retire and have that cushy job making almost $1 million. Well, he basically gave them the finger and said, forget that. I'm going to go coach. I'm continuing. I'm 66 years old. I'm still fired up, and I want to keep doing it. And now I'm going to go show the world, man. What can I do at Michigan? Obviously, he's going to win big. Where is Ohio State in relation to Ann Arbor? You know, he's the school down south again. He's going to have that, right? Isn't Michigan a little higher? My wife's mother grew up in Ann Arbor, and I've already texted some family members this morning and said, "Oh, you'll absolutely love it there." I've been there. Bob Seger, and Whittingham is a classic rock guy. Bob Seger grew up in Ann Arbor. I mean, come on. This is a great match, man. He's turning the page. There he goes on the road again, playing star. Yeah, that's who he is. He's playing star again at Michigan. Good for him.
Yeah, I want to know, too, because we obviously talk about what the possibility will look like for the future of Michigan football. And I think, as your piece points to, too, I mean, this is a guy who's got a squeaky clean reputation. He will clean a place up. I think that he needs to, and he'll do what he can to be able to do it. And then there's the part, Scotty G, about the scorched earth that's left behind here at the University of Utah. I think we all know, like you said, Morgan Scalley is as talented as it gets. There's a reason he's been the coach in waiting. There's a reason that he got the job that he's going to get. The question is now, how do you recover from the idea that you could end up losing that offensive coordinator after just one season? Losing also the possibility of maybe some other staff in there. I mean, this could even affect the BYU staff going forward here. This is not just a big hire for Michigan. This could affect everybody around here.
Oh, the amount of dominoes that are going to fall from this is going to be ridiculous because, hey, you know what? If I'm Kyle Whittingham and I need a defensive coordinator because Morgan obviously is going to be the head coach of the University of Utah, who's your first phone call? I call Jay Hill. Now, I don't know if Jay's been called or not,
right?
But that's the guy I call immediately saying, hey, Jay, come to Ann Arbor with me. Let's make a lot of money and make a name for ourselves here in Michigan. Now, I don't know if Jay answers that phone call or not, but I think if you're doing your job, and as PK mentioned, you want to keep your circle tight, then you call Jay Hill immediately and say, Jay, you want to come with me? What are they paying down there? Well, guess what? I can triple it. So whatever you want, let's go. And then you look at, obviously Jason Beck. You've got to do, to your point about Bryce Underwood, you've got to do whatever you can to keep Bryce Underwood.
Yeah.
Love Devin Dampier, hell of a quarterback for sure, but Bryce Underwood's at a different level. So you got to do whatever you can to keep Bryce Underwood. And I think Jason Beck, with the offense that he's put up over the last couple of years, you're getting Devin Dampier on steroids with Bryce Underwood. So I think that's got to be appealing to him. And then you look at, hey, you know what? You've got one of the best D-line coaches in the country in Lewis Powell. Say, Lewis, hey, how would you like to become the highest paid defensive line coach in college football? Sharif, how would you like to be the highest paid safeties coach or the highest paid special teams coordinator in all of college football? I can do that now because Kyle Whittingham, to your point, PK, Kyle Whittingham's gone through his career as being the plucky underdog. He's always been the guy who's done more with less, whether it's beating Alabama in a Sugar Bowl or coming into the Pac-12 as the new kid on the block, and then all of a sudden winning Pac-12 title games and going to the Rose Bowl. Oh, look at David on his way to beat Goliath, and he's done such good things. They're such hardworking, bust their tail guys, and they're doing it with less talent. Now you give him an unlimited budget, and you give him all the resources he could possibly think of, all the talent he could possibly have, and then let's see what Kyle Whittingham could do. This could get really interesting really quickly.
As you look at this thing play out, PK, obviously, I mean, we all talked about this, like this guy, he would just ride off into the sunset when he was going to be done. How much of this is the fact that this guy doesn't just have a lot in the tank, he's got, all of it still potentially in tank, and all the things that he's going to bring with him experience-wise. From a winning standpoint, how does he affect Michigan right out of the gate? Because bringing in an OC is one thing, but there is going to be the side of where you got to clean up a program a little bit, and they're anticipating that from an administrative standpoint, he's got to make sure that all those things get dialed up because there has to be an image situation that Michigan has to. There's no way Biff Poggi would have ever gotten that gig. You've got to clean up the entire place and blow it all out. And so this is the way that they do it, is bringing in a guy like Kyle Whittingham.
I can recall when Dillingham got the job at ASU, obviously we've had it going back and forth with my allegiance to the Sun Devils, and he's called me out in public. We've had fun. He told me, he said, the days of taking 3 to 4 years to rebuild a program are over. That you can go in the transfer portal and you could transform literally immediately. And so he's going to give you most likely 3 years, right? And so with that in mind, if you are a kid who wants to get to the NFL, particularly on the defensive side, who better to train you? Look at all the kids that he's put into the NFL that nobody threw a parade or we had a big hubbub when they signed or committed with Utah. And then we see a year or two later, who is this kid? And this kid is really good. I can recall, what was the one kid? Eric Rowe. Remember him? Was a defensive back for Utah. And so we're standing on the sidelines. We used to be able to go to practice just a few years ago. It's the first day and they break into the scrimmage, certainly the first week where they do some teamwork, which is basically a scrimmage, without the live tackling. And he was with the second team. And so I went up to him afterward. I said, did you have any idea? He's literally 18-year-old freshman. He said, I had no clue where I was going to fit in. I had no idea. And then I go to Kyle afterward. We're walking back to the football facility. I said, what about this Rowe kid? Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh, this kid has got NFL potential written all over him. We knew. That's why we recruited him. Well, he's from Texas. Why the heck didn't Texas recruit him? Texas A&M. I could go down the list, right? In those days, they were Mountain West. They weren't even maybe they were Pac-12. I can't remember. I think they probably were Pac-12. But the fact is that Eric Rowe, he identified Eric Rowe and got him into the NFL for several years to where he gets the pension now and he can really play it. He was a smart kid too, so he's probably going to parlay that money into more money. Well, that's the kind of a bill. I was talking to Tom Homo last week, and he said they were on the sidelines. Tom Homo was a coach at Cal and Stanford, and they were at some school in California, and he's looking at his list, and then he looks at Kyle's list, and Kyle's got a list of guys that nobody else has on the sidelines, and a bunch of schools are recruiting at that place because Kyle could see something that others can't. He's got a track record. I couldn't even begin to name all those dudes. Now he goes to Michigan, and virtually every one of those kids has a slew of stars that precede their name. Well, he's still going to need to coach him up. That's what he can do. So I see no reason why he doesn't immediately install law and order and get that program back. I mean, they did win the title a couple years back. Obviously, Harbaugh was suspended for half the season, and Moore apparently was a train wreck and was going to be suspended starting next season and was already suspended some games this year. So with all that in mind, immediately clean that up. And then I think the riches of talent will flow unto him. They get 100,000 people every week. Ann Arbor on game day, having been there multiple times, is as good as any place, including the NFL. It's probably even better than that stupid soccer over in Europe.
Has to drop the soccer reference, of course, the stupid soccer reference during this get-go.
DJ's not even on, PK. Why are you giving shots on soccer, man? I know that's just habit.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. We'll get DJ's thought later, and I'm sure soccer will come back up. Yeah, go ahead.
But the thing to PK's point that I think he's spot on about, I was I'm a Broncos fan, so I'm always keeping eyes on the Broncos, and Karrini Reed signs a undrafted free agent contract with the Broncos, and George Payton, who's the general manager of the Broncos, was asked, well, what led you to sign him? And he said, because he went to the University of Utah, and we've had great success with the University of Utah. And when we know kids coming from that program, if they're tied with another player in our evaluation, we'll always go with the Utah guy because we know what we get out of the University of Utah. We know the scheme they run. We know what they develop, how they develop those players. And so we know they're going to fit in very quickly. And so that's what you go on that recruiting trail. Say, not only are we coming to Michigan, not only are we going to pay you more money than anybody else, not only are you going to play in front of 100,000 people and on national TV every single solitary game, but we're going to get you ready for the NFL because we put dudes in the NFL. We put dudes with no stars in the NFL. Eric Weddle, heard of him? Yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Guess what? Nobody recruited that guy except for us. But guess what? We put him in the NFL, and he's probably going to go in the Hall of Fame. So you're a 5-star guy. Just imagine what we can do with you in a year or two in our program. So let's go. Let's load up. The only thing that could be negative recruiting against Kyle Whittingham would be, well, guess what? Who are the quarterbacks that he's developed? Who are the quarterbacks he's put in the league? Well, guess what? You can figure that out really quickly with Jason Beck and say, look, we turned Devin Dampier into a superstar. Bryce Underwood, imagine what we can do with you in this offensive system. It just makes too much sense. And back to your point about the image, like Michigan has an image problem right now. They don't have a win-loss. Even last year, they won games. They're fine from a win-loss standpoint. What they need is somebody to come in and provide an image of, we're taking this seriously. No more guys taking footage of other teams wearing a Groucho Marx mustache on a sideline. No more of the issues that you've dealt with the previous head coach. We're going to hire the Mormon guy from Utah. Who better to clean up the program than Kyle Whittingham and still win a hell of a lot of games as well?
So you've got a handful of issues, of course, in Michigan. The Sharon Moore firing and the whole weirdness that's come out with that, and you know the charges that he's facing of misdemeanor stalking, felony home invasion, breaking and entering. You've got that. You've got the sign stealing situation. You had the staffer who was breaking into people's emails. All of this, by the way, was happening during one of their best runs in the history of their program, which is wild to me that they had so many of these things going on, all this misconduct. The president of the university gets dismissed by the Board of Regents because of misconduct with an alleged employee of the university. All these things add up to. They were still able to have success even though all this crap was going on in the background. I would imagine if they get somebody with a head on screwed straight, PK, you're going to get a program not just cleaned up, but you could be right onto the track of winning immediately.
Oh, I don't see why not, particularly too at Michigan. You really have to take a chance as guys. Now, Kyle was known a little bit for taking a chance, right? Darren Carrington got kicked out of Oregon. Running back Devontae Booker had some issues in junior college. And both of those guys came to Utah and kept their noses clean. And Booker played in the NFL. They also had Josh Gordon. Remember him? And he could never pass a drug test. And so they got rid of him. And so he never actually took the field. It's a sad, sad story because the kid has had NFL talent. But at Michigan, do you need to take a chance on guys? Do they really? Unless you're freaking whomever. I mean, the greatest thing ever, somebody else is waiting in line, right? So unless you got good character kids, what's the point? Because you can have the talent. Now you can have talent and character. If these kids got bad, they're knuckleheads, Kyle's going to have no use for them, especially now, because never underestimate the Whittingham motivation. Now, I'm talking about Kyle's father, who's in the great beyond. And I'm talking about Kyle just had a grandbaby here a couple of weeks ago. Even that grandbaby at the grandbaby stage, at the baby stage, has the fierce Whittingham motivation to, I'll show you, right? So you combine a little bit of revenge and a little bit of spite. Well, let's face it, man. That guy thrives on that stuff. Just ask Joe Glenn about that, right? Joe Glenn with some innocuous comment in the student union. Oh, we're going to win this week. And there we are. The Utes are up by 50 and Kyle's onside kicking, right? I'll show you, you know what. And so with that in mind here, with now added motivation and a little bit of spite, because I don't think he was forced out, but he clearly was prodded out. And I've written about this and I've said it multiple times. And if there's any story that in my 41 years in this business that I've gotten right, it's this one. And he was prodded to leave, and he basically said, all right, I'll go. And maybe he didn't quite say it, but I'll show you. And then he lands the Michigan job 2 weeks later. Is this the ultimate middle finger or what?
Oh, for sure. Now, my question is, with the possibility of him getting prodded out, was there a buyout, do you think, that was part of this too, to make it to where there was a clean break so that he could pursue this?
Well, I mean, working at a public institution, we can find that out. I think the job offer was there on the table that he could take unless he gets another job. Now that he's got another job, I would assume, underline the word assume, that it is a clean break, and he'll go and he'll make at least at minimum what he was making at Utah, maybe even $1 million or $2 million more. I don't know how much that's going to change in his life. As far as the quality of life. But yeah, I think the money will be there. And I think the fact that it ended the way it did, that's what's motivating him to take this job, because he had told me on multiple occasions he would not be coaching in 28 for sure. I want to ask him, who did they sign up with? Was it Arkansas, where they had a home and home or something? And I forget who it was. I know they got Vegas year after next.
Yeah, for Miami.
Miami in Vegas. But they also had an SEC school. And I said to him, well, what are you going to be doing then? He said, sure, I ain't going to be coaching. And I said, what are you going to be doing? He says, I'm going to be golfing in Hawaii. And I said, with who? And he said, with you, pointing to me. And I gave him a kiss. I said, yeah, that's what I want to hear. So this thing's actually going to screw up my golfing in Hawaii by him taking it. But more power to him, man. If you only got a finite time left, and the older you get, the time gets shorter. And this is something that you really want to do. And maybe there's some other issues there that I alluded to that I don't want to get into, that he's able to do this. So go on, go have it and see what we can do.
It'll be an interesting.
Scotty's talking to his buddy right there in the car. Isn't he?
Well, I would assume that when those minutes become available, I feel like of those board meetings, that's going to be quite the read. We put in that grammar request immediately. PK, so that we can get those meeting minutes, because it's going to be pretty fascinating to see how this thing goes down. Yeah, Scotty's luckily he's got somebody else driving around for him. It's good.
I don't like that grin that he has. I can't hear what he's saying, but I don't like that grin.
Wait, Scotty's got a chauffeur?
He does. He has a driver.
Yeah.
He's got a driver. You know how they pull out all the stops in these Arizona Bowls, man.
Yeah, look at that.
So Scotty,
the only thing I wish is that Snoop Dogg himself was driving.
I forgot.
Although
it's the Snoop on the Stoop Bowl, right?
Yeah, although there might be a contact high issue there, but
yeah.
I need a picture with you and Snoop, Scotty. This needs to happen, please.
I'm dying to make it happen. I will do everything I can, Lloyd, to make that happen.
I feel like they have to make it happen. They're like, look, we got to show up for the media guys. If they don't give you 4 minutes with Snoop in the booth tonight.
I know, right?
Can you have Snoop call me like Donald Penn style?
That might be the same kind of language that Donald Penn used with you, too.
I know.
Oh, is this the well, the bottom line is, if we can get Snoop on and get his thoughts on Whit to Michigan, I think we'd round out the day perfectly on this one.
Yeah.
Scotty, as the mess kind of gets thrown around here, there's obviously the details that have to come out, and we have to figure those things out. I think the University of Utah is going to come under quite a bit of criticism as PK is kind of referring to. I think that it's somewhere along the way, and I was chatting with a family member today who's in those conversations, in those rooms with the people that are in those boardrooms, and they're like, we screwed this up. That's the thought. Did Utah screw this one up then?
Well, so I tweeted this out earlier today because whether it's BYU, Utah fans, they're going to die for their institution. So they will say nobody did anything wrong. Guess what? Two things can be true here. Number one, Morgan Scalley can and probably will be a great head coach, and will be a head coach at the University of Utah, win a whole lot of games for decades to come. That can be true. You know what else can be true? Utah did Kyle Whittingham a little dirty. And I agree with PK.
We lose Scotty here for a second? Well, we might have just dropped him a little bit, but I think it makes sense. I mean, if there's a mess.
Time for you to kind of look for other opportunities, not maybe like that per se, but essentially encouraged to say, you know what, golfing would be good.
Yeah, but I wonder if there's also the idea too, where
wherever your grandkids are, go see them. And so it's okay to say, yeah, you know what, Utah may have screwed this up, and I think Utah did screw this up. Kyle Whittingham was not ready to shut it down. He just wasn't. And so if he had gas left in the tank, he should be at Utah, but he's not. And now he's going to essentially finish out his career at Michigan, and he's going to win a lot of games. He's going to make a lot of money and cement his institution. And then, you know what, Utah, you hope the pressure is on Morgan Scalley in a big, big way. And I love Morgan. Morgan's a great dude. But, boy, that pressure just got ratcheted up tenfold, because if Kyle wins a college football playoff at Michigan and Utah struggles even for just a second, holy smokes. Yeah, it's going to be Armageddon.
Yeah, and then you're going to see the back and forth. The criticism will keep piling on at some point about how, this thing got botched from the beginning or whatever it might be. But you're right, and PK brought it up too about the idea of if Kyle finds a grudge somewhere, he'll run with it, because that just motivates him even more. And if there was any kind of misgiving on how this thing went down, you'll see it play out, and that would also be the way that you could see Kyle Whittingham jump into this job and say, hey, I've still got it, and I'm going to show you I still got it. Obviously, with Patrick Kinahan, of course, you can go read his story up online at KSL.com. It's up right now about this very subject of Kyle Whittingham and the possibility of him going to the University of Michigan. It looks like we may get something as early as this afternoon to be able to be official. Obviously, Kyle can't keep this one in his timeline. He can't just say, well, I'll do a press conference whenever I want. Michigan will want to roll this thing out as soon as possible to be able to get down the road onto a clean future here. Scotty G, Patrick Kinahan, we're gonna take a break, guys. We'll keep in contact here, and if something goes down officially, we'll dip back in again. But we appreciate you guys getting on the horn here and chatting with us right here at the top as we get this thing going.
Keep your phones by you.
You got it.
There you go. I know we're anticipating Hans Olsen also here at the top of the hour. Also remotely, because you know what? We're not anything except for just a worldwide sports organization. We will cover you wherever we're at here. We'll get you going. We'll take the break here. We've got more to go right around the corner. It's the KSL Sports Zone. We'll talk more Kyle Whittingham and the possibility of heading to the University of Michigan, what the fallout could mean, not just for the U, not just for Michigan, but maybe even some other programs right around here. Stay here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I'm a free agent. I'm in the transfer portal. So yeah, it's a different feel. But like I said, I'm at peace, and I did not want to be that guy that overstayed his welcome. And people just saying, hey, when's this guy going to leave? That was not my intention ever, and I hope I didn't do that. I'm sure with some people I did do that, but to me the timing was right.
I don't know what we were thinking to think that guy would retire ever if he's got a coaching drop left in that body. And just based off of those comments now that you heard from Kyle Whittingham from this last week at his first press availability after it was made known that he was stepping down and Morgan Scalley was officially going to be the head coach of the University of Utah. Well, now the dominoes falling in a very different direction toward Ann Arbor, Michigan, where the top name coming out of the coaching search looks to be Kyle Whittingham. Not just looks to be Kyle Whittingham. We might expect if there is something that goes down, it will likely happen this afternoon. Got to remember, too, Michigan's on Eastern time, and so everything kind of gets pushed a little bit further. If we're going to get that Friday afternoon news dump, they're going to want to do it as big as they can do it so that they can see where that image can get turned around as soon as it can. Michigan is an absolute mess. Kyle Whittingham is the opposite of somebody who is a mess. He will bring in some discipline to the program, at the very least, an image of a program that's turning around and cleaning itself up, and that could be happening as soon as today. How does that affect the rest of the offensive coordinating position here with Jason Beck, who his name has already been floated out there as the likely top name to be considered after just 1 year at the University of Utah? Then you think about the players that could possibly go with him. Where does Bryce Underwood work in all this, the five-star recruit quarterback at the University of Michigan, and what does that look like future-wise? Alex Kirry here, Lloyd Cole here with me in studio. Alex Neplis hitting the buttons, and
live from the Phoenix Rising ride. I think he's actually on the ride right now.
I think that's about as good as it gets if you can get the play-by-play going from the Busch Gardens down there in Florida. Hans Olsen joining us on the program. Hans, none of this is a total surprise because we've all worked in sports for a long time, and yet at the same time, this is as big a news as you can get here. When you saw that this could officially be going through, what were your thoughts?
I'd like to thank Kyle Whittingham for making that decision and this news today while I'm at Busch Gardens with my family.
I love
and
it.
Stepped away. I've been on the phone for the last couple hours just trying to get any info, any details on what's happening. But
are you on Falcons Fury?
Noise.
Hans, are you on Falcons Fury right now?
No. I'm getting on the Iron Gwaza, and the Iron Gwaza is one of the highest free falls in the entire country. It's a 91-degree fall, and it's supposed to spill your guts out. So it's supposed to be a nice ride. But I'm actually just here with my girls, and I got my 3 girls, and I got Amanda out here, and we're just having a blast. But a lot of thoughts on it, Alex. You know, I could sit here and stomp my feet and say that this should have never happened, and if Kyle wants to coach in Utah, he should coach in Utah. But at this point, I just kind of want to move on from it and just say, okay, now what? And the now what is not something that I like to face because I have loved doing sports radio in this state because I've loved to get to know these coaches and I'm familiar with them. And I know what I can get away with and what I can't get away with. And it's just going to be hard to lose any of them out of the state or see some shift or see some move. It's just going to be a pain because, you know, you get so used to these guys and we're all going to have to make a pretty major adjustment at this point.
It's not just a huge piece of news, but it's also, I mean, we have people who are like, yeah, you know what? He can move on to Michigan then. Tell me what the Utes are going to be like going forward. How on earth does Utah recover from not just the idea of, I mean, because Morgan Scalley, we knew he was going to be the head coach, and we knew what we get with Morgan Scalley. But this could be a different level of scorched earth when you talk about things that are left behind and pieces that may end up leaving the state, not just from Utah, but maybe even locally. What happens with the University of Utah then in the short term future here, and then maybe long term after something like this happens, the way that it went down?
Let's look at a few things. I just sent a tweet out and I said, this looks like it's going to be the biggest shift in coaching in Utah history, in the state of Utah history. And people look at it and be like, oh, no, not in the history, in my history, 20 years that I've been on air. People look at it and be like, well, Bronco Mendenhall left and you brought in Kalani Sasaki. And there were a lot of things that stopped major dominoes. When Bronco left and Kalani came in, like there were already some hires with guys that weren't coaching, like Cy Detmer and Reno Mahe, and BYU was trying to save some money, and they were trying to make in-house decisions. And this one, I think, is going to have some dominoes that may have an effect across the state just based off of who Kyle Whittingham's attached to. And by the way, anybody that's listening, like, our Hans has inside sources, or Hans has talked to anybody. No, I really haven't. I've tried. I've been trying to get some information on it, but in typical Kyle Whittingham staff status, they don't answer, they don't take calls, they don't talk, and so it's really hard to get to things. So, okay, if they don't want to talk, then let's assume. Let's start assuming. Well, we all know that Jay Hill is very close to Kyle Whittingham, and we know Michigan pays well. So everybody sees the rumors out there. They see the buzz. They see the stir. Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to make that connection and say, well, Michigan could pay more than anybody. Jay loves Kyle. Kyle wants to go win a national championship, believes he's got the talent there. And if he doesn't have the talent, he's got the cachet and NIL that he can get it. So why wouldn't he say to Jay Hill, hey, let's go? No, it's up to Jay. And I'm not saying Jay would leave, and I'm not saying BYU wouldn't try to match or try to get to a big number. All I'm saying is make the connection. It's easy to make that connection. It's very easy to see. So I would assume he's talked to Jay Hill, and I would assume that he's talked to Jason Beck, because Jason Beck showed up and they had some pretty incredible success. And, you know, I think it would be an easy phone call to make. Okay, so let's talk about a few things here, guys. So let's just say that he pulls Jay Hill with him. Okay, well, who does Kalani know? Now Kalani is calling Colton Swan, or he's calling Lewis Powell. You know, okay, well, let's say Jason Beck leaves. Well, who's Morgan Scalley going to call? If I'm Morgan, I'm calling Aaron Roderick. I'm calling anybody that I have coached with, that I trust, that I know, that can come in and build me an offense that I can be successful with. So just understand that when I say that this is going to be maybe one of the craziest coaching changes we've seen, I'm just trying to draw some parallels here and make the connections of who knows who and what could possibly be done. And people could say, oh, wait a second, BYU can't poach a Utah coach. Well, that was back in the day when Kalani Sasaki took the job as an independent head coach, and Utah was a couple of years into the Pac-12 and had built up this pool of money, and it was hard. Utah was poaching BYU coaches, and it was hard to even pull a Utah coach because of the stability and the money. And right now, we're looking at it, and it's like success is everywhere and money is everywhere. So everybody should be calling everybody. That's just how it should be. And by the way, like, I've already got Utah fans that are upset on Twitter, and I've got BYU fans that are upset on Twitter. I understand why you're upset. Like, I'm not happy about it either. I'm not happy that I could possibly lose some of these coaches out of this state. I'm not happy that Kyle Whittingham's leaving. That sucks for me. Kyle has been a close friend of mine. a very close friend of mine. So, okay, now let's talk about some of this coaching talent. Who would I contact first? If I'm Kyle Whittingham, outside of Jason Beck and Jay Hill, who I think I would go for my offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, the third guy I would call is Lewis Powell. I'm calling a D-line coach that has I was trying to put numbers together. I'm going back to Bradley and I'm going through like Lecky Fotu, and I'm going through Hunter Dimmick, and I've got a grip of guys under Lewis Powell. I think I got to about 235 sacks, guys. I've got 5 All-Americans. I've got about 235 sacks. I've got a recruiting extraordinaire, and he's my go-to guy. I called Lewis Powell and I say, hey, we're going to Michigan. Now, here's the other thing. If I'm Utah, if I'm Morgan Scally, I'm on the phone with Lewis right now. And I'm saying, Lewis, okay, fine, take Michigan's best offer, but you give me final say. We've been together a lot of years. I'm younger. I'm going to be here a lot more years. You get to stay in the state. You get to stay where people love you. You get to stay where you're really grounded in recruiting, and we'll get to that number, and we'll keep you safe. Morgan has got to be on the phone with administration and Lewis Powell. Lewis Powell is a bloodline that Utah cannot lose, and he's one that I would go after first. Okay, second. And again, outside of Jason Beck and Jay Hill, those are my coordinators that I would try to take with me. Second, I would go after Jim Harding. Think about it. Jim Harding's about to have his 2 offensive tackles drafted.
Yep. Both
a first-round pick probably from Spencer Fano and probably a second or third round pick from Lomu. So think about this. Now let's go all the way back to Jeremiah Patasi. We got Jeremiah Patasi, and then we got everything in between. And by the way, I know these numbers because when Jim Harding was recruiting my son Ross, we were going through the numbers. I think he's got 11 draft picks after these 2 guys go. I think he's got 11 or 12 draft picks. And by the way, there's a couple of others that are draftable on this offensive line. I think that Mokofisi and others have draft potential on this offensive line. I even think Jaron Kump, what he did with the center position this year, makes him draftable. I want to say that he had a year. It was like he had a year where he had 4 guys drafted off offensive line. And I saw the way he recruits. I saw the way he recruited my son. And by the way, it was a phenomenal recruiting process. And what it ultimately came down to was, here's the bottom line. You're not going to be able to get on the field for a long time. So we just can't fit you here. Like it won't work. That was his honesty to my son. It was, you better work your butt off. You've got to get your feet faster. You've got to get your hands faster. You've got to make sure that you kick step. Like he gave him all the details. I'll always respect him for that. Always pure honesty, and all I want is to see my son grow, and he got a nice dose of reality, and I love that. I'm telling you right now, Jim Harding is a perfect recruiter. He was constantly calling. He was, constantly taking calls, whatever we needed, he was there. So I called Jim. By the way, I'm giving you a lot of my personal. This is my personal, but it's also steeped in reality, and it's steeped in numbers. Look at his draft pool. Look at his recruiting. Look at the guys he's selected. Look at the way he's developed these guys. And you have a very good understanding of why I would go after Jim Harding. Okay, so if I get Lewis Powell and Jim Harding, all right, well, what does that do across the board? What defensive coaches can I try to get from BYU? Or if I lose a BYU coach, what coaches can I get from Utah? And do I need to go into Logan and start looking at some of Broncos staff if I've got to fill my coaching staff? So I think that it could be a massive shift. And the hardest thing for me, boys, is I have grown to love and respect these coaches. People always say, well, you're a homer for BYU, or you're a turncoat for Utah, or you're this or that. Here's what I am. I'm a people person. I love the people that I love. I respect the people that I love. I respect people that can coach football, that play good football. I respect people that build programs and get wins. That's Kyle Whittingham. That's Kalani Sasaki. Mm-hmm. That's Jason Beck. That's Jay Hill. That's Aaron Roderick. That's everything in between. There's a lot of great coaches that have done a lot of great winning in this state. And I'm just worried, Utah let Kyle Whittingham go. Mm-hmm. Think about, if you're Michigan, why wouldn't you hire Kyle? I don't have a major buyout. What do you mean? I don't have a buyout? I don't have to pay $8.5 million to Utah to even get a chance to talk to Kyle. Like, you think about what this hire was for Michigan. It was the perfect hire, and I can understand why they went with it. But boys, I think we're going to suffer the consequence because think about it from Kyle's perspective. Look, if ESPN called and they were like, Hans, you got to come out. We got this spot for you, and we got money, and we want you to bring your staff, and we want you to bring everything you can. Well, okay. I'm looking at Bonneville and KSL. I'm like, I've got this massive offer. Cool. Well, we can't match it. Okay, well, what are we going to do here? Because if I walk away and I go to ESPN and they're telling me I can take my talent, then I'm going to take my talent. Well, I become the most hated man on earth, but I'm trying to do good radio. Well, that's what Kyle Whittingham is doing. And this is the other difference, because I've seen a lot of people mention, well, but Michigan's not just going to give him carte blanche. Michigan for sure is going to. No, Michigan became a train wreck, and this whole scandal has embarrassed a lot of people. And when you hire Kyle Whittingham, you hire his culture. You hire him to bring his culture. By bringing his culture, he brings his guys.
Yep.
So he's bringing his staff. Now, if I'm Michigan and I hire Jay Hill, and I bring in Jay Hill, then I'm like, oh, by the way, Jay, you're going to be keeping these four assistants because the players are going to be leaving with them if we don't keep them. So you're going to figure out a way to incorporate these guys, and you can bring in 3 other assistants. That's not what you do with Kyle Whittingham. You're hiring Kyle because you're trying to restore culture. The way you restore Kyle's culture is you let Kyle hire culture guys. And by the way, Kyle's not going in there to be embarrassed. Kyle is going to go in there, and he's got about 4 or 5 years that he wants to win a national championship. So he's going to go in there scorched earth. He's going to take the best of the best, whatever he can grab, whatever will go with him, whatever Utah or BYU or Utah State or any other university that's trying to retain a staff will hold on to. And he's going to try to bring that crew.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, like, I mean, they're saying, hey, can you bring in the cleanest possible dudes ever? He's like, say less. That's the only people that I hire. What was interesting is our producer, Alex Napolis, who's helping us out today, just sent us this tweet. This guy, I'm not even sure who he is. I don't know him from Adam, but he said this. He goes, just to be safe, I checked Whittingham's Instagram. The only women he follows is his wife and daughters and hasn't posted in 10 years. Multiple championships in Michigan confirmed is what the tweet said. But that's exactly what they're looking for. That's exactly what they're looking for. Some stability, but not just that. He doesn't bring in guys, to your point. He doesn't bring in guys that don't fit this exact culture. And so it's beyond reproach dudes who he's gonna hire. It's guys who they're able to talk about football and culture and get it done from day one. And that's going to be his requisite, too. Like, hey, I want to do this, but I'm going to clean it up my way. And by the way, it's not about cleaning it up. I start clean. So starting clean is the way that I think that he's going to go through with it. And, yeah, the unfortunate thing is going to be the fallout. I think that we're going to – you could see the level of football success in the state of Utah take a massive dip, not just at the University of Utah, but across the board because of the fallout that could happen today.
By the way, Hans, we're
worried about it.
We're close with all these guys, and I should say we have good relationships with all these guys. We know, I mean, Morgan. I mean, he was we talked. It wasn't that long ago. Well, it was a long time ago when he hosted a radio show right here on the Zone. Like, we know all these guys really well. They're all interconnected with BYU, Utah, like. So, and it wasn't, we've been talking about Kyle Whittingham and having a statue at Utah. You talk about, I wonder what happens now. Obviously, hey, I don't care what anybody says. He was not ready to go. He was not. He said that in his availability. He says, he didn't want to overstay his welcome. But yeah, I'm not, I got still some left in the tank. Well, if he leaves and he takes some guys from BYU, some guys from Utah, what does that mean for Kyle Whittingham's legacy in the state of Utah?
So, Lloyd, I would say that the answer to that is as deep as so many other things in regards to Kyle Whittingham even leaving and all those things that happen along with that. Like his legacy, this is all going to go extremely deep. Okay, so think about it. Let's say Morgan Scally goes on for a 10-year career, and let's say he gets close to a national championship. Well, what do we look back at? We say Kyle Whittingham set all that up. Okay, let's say that this puts Utah in a funk for 5 years, and they fire Morgan, and they're trying to find a different head coach. Well, now we got to look at it and say, well, how did he leave it? What were the cupboards like? And, I think that how things play out the next 10 years, does he go to Michigan? Is he embarrassed and fired in 2 years? Or does he go to Michigan and win a national championship in 4 years? If he wins a national championship, everybody's going to want to have his name attached to them. Well, this was Kyle Whittingham's breeding ground. This is where he started. This is where he got his boost. He took his staff from here. These are all homegrown guys, and the next thing you know, it's just it's a completely different conversation. So, Lloyd, I think in order to answer that, we got to let the next 10 years play out.
Yeah.
And just say, all right, where are we headed? Because if Kyle Whittingham finishes with a national championship at Michigan and Morgan Scally goes on to have the career we expect him to have, which is, great wins, good success, then I think everybody feels happy about it. And they're like, oh, man, Kyle Whittingham, what a blessing. This guy's incredible. I mean, look at Urban Meyer squatted in the state of Utah for a short period of time, and we still talk about Urban Meyer. Kyle was here for 21 years. He was here for 21 years. There's people that are still wanting to put a statue of Urban at the University of Utah because of what they did in 2004. Look, as long as I'm on air, as long as I'm a part of this media, I'm going to ensure that Kyle Whittingham's name and his memory and his legacy stays intact and exactly where it should be. An amazing head coach that caused very little social drama, that didn't have major scandals, that hired good men. And yeah, okay, BYU fans, you can hate him all you want. And believe me, when he was piping BYU 9 times in a row, 10 or 11 years consecutively, yeah, it was a little bit tiresome. I'm sure BYU fans were like, this sucks. I hate this guy. He won't shake hands. He hates BYU. He hates everything blue. He calls him the team down south. I get it. BYU fans, you can hate him all you want. And I totally understand it. I'm just telling you, he coaches the way I coach. He's the type of coach I'd play football for. So as long as I'm here, I'm going to do everything I can to keep his legacy intact because he earned it and he deserved it. And at some point, regardless, I do think that his name's got to be on the stadium or he's got to have some type of statue recognition in that school.
Hans, I'm pretty much telling everybody this. Keep your phone handy. Keep your phone handy. Go. We appreciate you. Go enjoy some time with the family. Hope your Christmas was well and appreciate all you do. But keep your phone handy.
Okay. Everything okay?
Yeah, we're just working through all this, man. It's just all this.
If more happens, keep your phone handy because I'm going to be calling you.
Well, Hans, we appreciate it because we're asking everybody to basically take some time away from their family on a day that we were all assuming maybe we'd have off. But you're a pro. You always do it, so we appreciate it, man.
No. I mean, like literally, I'm getting on this ride, this roller coaster ride. I'll stay off of it and I'll do whatever I got to do. I hope the sports fans in the state understand how much we care. I hope they know. Like, I'm here with my 3 girls. Say hi. Hey, all you girls say hi. Say hi.
Oh, hi.
Say hi, Matt.
I love it.
Hi.
I love it.
That's what we do.
We're all sitting here. They're all sitting here looking at me like, Dad, so this is what we're doing. Here's the deal, dude. I don't care. I love this state. I love sports radio. And I will do everything I need to do. And I'm just hoping that this works out okay for BYU. It works out okay for Utah because we know this. It's going to work out good for Kyle Whittingham. It's just who he is, and Michigan is going to push around who they need to push around. So there you go, boys.
Appreciate it, Hans. And I think we might have to have a first. We could have you live on a ride, and that might be when we do. That might be the next version of being able to get you on. But we appreciate it, man.
Well, listen, I'm on next, so if you want, I'll stay on, and you can hear me write it. But I'll probably call you after.
All right, Hans, appreciate it, man. We'll chat with you again later. Hans Olsen.
This is
Scotty G and Hans and Scotty, of course, every day noon to 3 usually.
This is going to be the biggest storyline that I think we've seen. I'm trying to think of anything that's up there. In my time, there's been some big ones, but this is the ripple effect in this. And by the way, we're going to be checking in with David James here coming up here momentarily.
I think the one that matches. I mean, it's a weird game to play where we go, but for us, it's funny because we talk about the things that like took us out of moments, and we had to live in that space, and it just broke all the things here locally. I think the Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert stuff, like with the trades, that ended up kind of blowing that whole thing up. And that was a good month and a half. But those things were slow burnish. We sort of saw them coming. How wild is it to think? I was just thinking about this because we were talking about the Urban Meyer deal. Urban Meyer goes and ends up at Ohio State, not directly after he left Utah, but eventually ends up at Ohio State, wins national championships there. Whit leaves the University of Utah, goes to Michigan, wins national championships there? ? Like, what a wild! You talk about a pipeline.
I didn't even think because of the mess that it is, and I know we've talked about it. Like that he's the perfect guy to go in there and clean up shop. But I still thought he did not want to retire. Now he did not want to. He wanted to keep going, but he was close enough that it's like, well, do I really want this headache? Do I really want to deal with this Michigan thing? Do I really, and the fact that that's even a possibility tells me he has at least 3 to 5 more years in the tank.
I think that 2015 college football, he couldn't do it because there would be a massive stupidity that he'd have to wade through that's not his fault. No coach wants to inherit that. And especially a coach that you feel like is going to be shorter time than, you hire a guy in his early 50s or in his, in college football now, it's like hire a guy in his late 30s and they become the guy. But you don't have that time now. So he had to look at it and go, will I be able to make this happen now? Are they going to make us sit out of the college football playoff for the garbage that has come out of the University of Michigan? The rules that just continue to be broken. It didn't take Biff Poggi telling us that this was an absolute disaster, or whatever the terminology was that he used. It was like an organizational, failing. It didn't take him telling us that to understand it. We knew already. And the University of Michigan, in spite of itself, still was able to have success in the midst of coaches having affairs with staffers, coaches cheating, coaches stealing, like federal crimes, federal computer crimes happening that we found out this last week was actually during their run up to the national championship when they lost to TCU that year in 2022. That was happening in the midst of all this. Now, do I think that Kyle Whittingham that it's going to be an easy go, that they immediately start winning? I don't think that's the case. I think you're going to have to deal with some mess for a minute. I don't think it's going to have to be sanctions. I don't think it's going to have to be telling the school, oh, hey, look, because Whit doesn't want to go to a place and be told you can't go anything of significance over the next few years. I think you're right. I mean, I would love to try to guess on how many years Kyle Whittingham has now, but I will never guess again on what Kyle Whittingham is going to do in the future. Like, we got it freaking wrong. We guessed for Kyle Whittingham and said, he'll be done. This is it. He's walking away. You know what the big mistake was that we made too? That he walked away and everything was happiness and rainbows at the University of Utah with those two. I guarantee it wasn't. I guarantee that there were, and Whit would never have those hard feelings against any, like Morgan Scalley, any of those. He said too, he goes, I'm not going to be that guy that you're going to make look like the dude who wasn't walking away or who couldn't give it up. No, don't make me out to be that guy. Don't make me out to be that guy. In fact, I'll show you.
All these things are pointed towards somebody, by the way, up there. All those things that he's saying.
I think that we're going to find out. And again, the good news is we're going to find out some of this. Was there a buyout to cut ties with Kyle Whittingham? I think we're going to find out that the answer is yes. Was there a single or a bunch of people on that board that said, hey, let's do it this way. We got to move on. We got to make this thing happen. We got to do it right now. That made it to where this thing went down the way that it did? because you're going to get a lot of people who are looked at funny up at the U, I think, after all this, because they're going to go, did you guys really botch this? And the fans are not going to be happy. The fans are not going to be happy because the board wanted things to go according to their timeline, or a handful of people. I don't know who. So we'll see how it happens.
They win, they're happy. There's no problem.
Yeah, there shouldn't be.
They have to win.
But
if they don't, there's going to be a little bit. There's going to be some grumpiness.
How do you win at the rate that Whit did? 18 seasons of winning records out of 21, 7+ 10-win seasons, 2 Pac-12 championships, Coach of the Year honors, AP Coach of the Year in 2008, Pac-12 Coach of the Year 21 and 22. The guy is already a legend. He's already in the Hall of Fame, not just at the University of Utah, but college football. He will be in that College Football Hall of Fame just based off of this. And it'll take some years of trying to get back to – it'll have to be when he's totally done at Michigan. It'll have to be when everything kind of – the dust settles here. I do think that the legacy of Kyle Whittingham will be set. There's not going to be hard feelings there eventually, but I think in the short term, it's going to be awkward for a while. It's going to be really weird for a minute. And I think every program in the state is gonna see some big-time changes. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, David James is going to join us. We're going to get some thoughts from DJ, who, of course, has been covering Kyle Whittingham, not just during the head coaching times at the University of Utah, but also the almost 40 years that he's been at this institution. We've got more to go around the corner. Stay right here with us as we break the news. We're waiting for an official word. The reports all pointing toward University of Utah former head coach Kyle Whittingham becoming the next head coach at the University of Michigan after Sharon Moore was dismissed and after that program has gone through an absolute disaster of the last 3 or 4 years. We'll take that break. Lloyd Cole joining me. We've got Alex Napolis hitting the buttons. We've come in here to chat about all this today. Let's get this thing going. More to go around the corner. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Well, like I said, I don't want to overstay my welcome. Somebody once told me that every year that goes by you're a coach, 10% of the fan base starts to hate you. And so after 20 years, they all, plus their kids and grandkids, probably hate me. So anyway, but it was a good run. It was a good run. And I'll say it one more time. I didn't want to be that hanger-oner that just people just got sick of.
Well, it's certainly not going to be a hanger-oner here at the University of Utah. Kyle Whittingham. We don't know how close to a deal that this could be, but it according to a lot of sources, people are saying this is almost a done deal. We may see an announcement as soon as today. If you're Michigan, you want to make an announcement of a clean living coach into the future as soon as you can. The faster that you can get that whole staff out of that building and divorce yourself from any of those feelings and any of the actions and any of the things that went on with that University of Michigan team over the past 5 years, you get away from it as soon as you can. The way you do it is with guys like Kyle Whittingham, who are reportedly going to be taking that job at the University of Michigan. We'll see if that actually goes down because, look, like you said, I was saying it earlier, when Kyle Whittingham, when we zig, Kyle Whittingham zags, we have no idea what goes on in the head of that man. But I do think that if we do know anything, it's that he's a massive competitor. He has a hard time walking away from a job like that. He has a hard time walking away from coaching. Alex Kirry, by the way, Lloyd Cole, Alex Napolis here in studio. We jumped into the studio live today just over an hour and a half ago, and we started going at this thing and trying to figure it out. One of the people helping us figure all those things out, somebody with tremendous perspective on this, somebody who's covered Kyle Whittingham way into the past before he was even a head coach at the University of Utah. David James, DJ, joining us on the program. What's going on, DJ? What are your thoughts this morning as we thought we were going to have a nice day off and just hanging out? It's never like that in the world of sports. You got to be ready all the time for something like this. But how shocked were you to see that his name is tied very hardcore to the University of Michigan now?
Well, not shocked. If you go back on my Twitter feed, you'll see on December 15th, we ran a poll question. What should Kyle do now? We knew he was out at Utah, that he was stepping down. And, there was, go do something in the NFL and ski or golf and be a grandpa. And the fourth option in the four-choice Twitter poll was be a Michigan man. And the poll got over 550 votes, and about a third of them were for Kyle being a Michigan man. And so this has been on the radar. The only question is, he's 66, in my mind, the only question was he's 66 years old. That's not the ideal candidate. Historically, you'd like to hire someone who could be at school, 10 years or whatever. And that seems pretty optimistic for a 66-year-old. But everything in college football has sped up. And I was pretty sure he wouldn't be at the top of their list. But when I started thinking about who they could hire, I couldn't really figure out how he couldn't be at least top 5.
Right.
And 2 of them were clearly off the list because Alabama and Arizona State are holding on to their guys, right? DeBoer and
Dillingham.
And now I'm blanking on an ASU coach's name.
Yeah, Kenny Dillingham, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to say Willingham. I knew I was going to do it. I was trying to avoid running their 2 names together. So with those 2 guys locked up, and I can see how they'd be great candidates, no doubt about it. So I'm thinking, okay, is he 3rd, 4th, or 5th on the list? How long before they get to him? He can't be that far down the list. He just went 10-2. He can't be that far down. In the last 5 years, he's won 2 conference titles and been to 2 Rose Bowls and had a 10-2 team on top of that. He can't be that far down the list. And so now it looks like he was 3rd on the list. Maybe there was somebody else who said no and it was quiet, so maybe he was 4th. But it doesn't really matter if you're the one who gets the job. And I do think it's close because if he didn't want it, he knows – I mean, there's been way too much out there now. I mean, the national media is all over it, right? It's clearly leaking on Michigan's end. And if he doesn't want it, he could just say no and they could be on to the next thing and that story would be out. So he wants it. And from Michigan's perspective, they got to quit messing around and get a coach. We're getting pretty close to January 1st, and the portal's going to open on January 2nd. And if they don't have a coach, they could have their team rated. They just went 9-3. Now they went 9-3 against a soft schedule. And let me say, I've already looked at next year's schedule, and it's harder. I think they played 2 playoff teams this year. They play 4 teams next year that are in the playoff this year. And teams do go up and down year to year, but they got Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, and a non-conference game with Oklahoma. So they got a real tough schedule next year. They better not mess around with this roster. So Michigan, and this is Captain Obvious stuff, Michigan's got to get it done.
Yeah.
And if Kyle doesn't want it to happen, he could just say no and they can move on. So these reports have to be legit, and it's got to be close.
How okay, now the question becomes, DJ, is obviously our interest is all with Utah and BYU. We know Kyle Whittingham is extremely close with coaches on both staffs.
Yes.
Now let's talk about the ripple effect this could have on Utah and BYU if this does happen.
Texting with people who know Kyle today, the word domino has been used so many times by so many people because, I guess, I just said it's got to be close, right? It could still fall apart. But I don't really think anybody I know believes it's going to. But, you just said it, Alex. We don't really know what's in his mind, right? But It does seem like, man, I'm thinking this got to be 80 or 90% of the way there. This has to almost be in the barn. It's got to be close. So that means he's got to have a staff. Mm-hmm. So I would think candidate number 1 on the offensive side of the ball has got to be Jason Beck.
Yep.
Because they average 41 points a game, and they're 5th in the nation in scoring.
And they got to keep Underwood there at Michigan, and that's a great way to do it.
Hold on to that thought for just a second, Alex. The 41 points and the 5th in the nation is great because it's running, and that trend. I've had people text me this today. Hey, his offense is going to translate to Big Ten football in November. Whether you're home or on the road, there's a decent chance you're playing in really cold weather. I mean, you could be at USC or UCLA, but there's a decent chance you're playing in really cold weather. Right now, I'm talking to you from the shores of the Chesapeake Bay because I got family in Baltimore. And we're down in Annapolis right now. And, I wouldn't want to throw the ball in the weather today. I'm just trying not to drop my freaking phone in the water right now talking to you. It's cold. And they're having mild weather, right? So he's got an offense. Now, Kyle's hard to work for. Let's just say it. If you're an offensive coordinator for Kyle Whittingham, that's not an easy job. And I bet if we had truth serum, I could get 3 offensive coordinators to say that very quickly, and I might not even need truth serum with 1 or 2 of them.
Yep.
And I have had someone point that out to me, that Beck's not a lot because he's not easy to work for. And I'm like, Michigan has more prestige and more money, and now they've got a year of trust built, to which the response was, yeah, it's probably Beck. So there's that. And Jay Hill on the defensive side, I think, would be Kyle's first pick. Jay Hill played for Kyle when Kyle was a defensive coordinator. He coached under him before he went to Weber State. Jay has, wherever he's gone, the program's gotten better. At some point, it's not an accident. At some point, it's Jay. And I think it was Jay a while ago, but even if you're slower to the party than me, I think by now you're saying, yeah, Jay's good. So I think that's the guy. Now, Jay brought a bunch of transfers from Weber State. So if it is Jay, if I were BYU fans, I'd be worried about some of the defensive players who love Jay going to Michigan.
Yep.
Now, Michigan's got a pretty good roster. They're 9-3, and they're supposed to have a good recruiting class. So it's not like they got to rebuild everything. But inevitably, they're going to lose some people. If nothing else, in this NIL era, one of the other reasons they got to get this done is Kyle's got to put a staff together. Whoever gets the job has to put a staff together, has to assess all the players. Not only are you good enough, but are you good enough at what price? Because Michigan has more NIL money, but they don't have unlimited. And so you got to put a market value on every player, and you just can't pay a player twice what you should be paying. So you may have to let people go, in which case you got to have replacements. So absolutely, I'd be worried about players on both sides of the ball. I think at Utah, the first thing I would worry about is Parker at running back. He's really good. Now, I don't know Michigan's roster. They may be set at running back. I know both Utah and BYU have good young quarterbacks. Now, to your point, Alex, they do have a good quarterback. That was the report at Michigan, right? Now, if you go look at his stats, and because I'm watching local teams, I don't have time to watch a bunch of Michigan games, so it's not like I've watched him a lot. I haven't. But if you go back and look at his stats, he trended poorly in November.
Yeah.
It's like they were catching up to him. Now, again, this is why you hire a coach and an OC to watch film and think, hey, yeah, it didn't go well in November, but we know how to fix what needs to be fixed. And there's, a basic foundation of a really good player there. And they may decide that. And because Bryce Underwood's a freshman, I can see why really quarterback is the one position where there might not be a lot of plundering. I mean, heck, even, Ficklin, if he's going to go there and he's not going to start, he could be sitting behind him for a couple more years, whereas the job comes open in one more year at Utah. But some of these other positions, along the lines, at linebacker, where usually you have multiple good players on the roster, you got multiple guys on the way up, and you need depth. Yeah, I could see where, depending on NIL promises and needs, I'd be worried about losing players.
Interestingly enough, of course, you got a couple of bowl games that these teams have to play over the next couple. I say that these teams, all of them that we're talking about, Utah, Michigan, BYU, all of them that could potentially. I mean, BYU's got a game tomorrow. There's no way that all of this stuff hitting the news today is going to sit well with that program, because there is likely. I mean, they are. They are on the road right now in Florida, and they're watching this thing go down. And you can't tell me that these players, and some of them might be thinking to themselves what they look like in Michigan blue. Next week on New Year's Eve at the Vegas Bowl, I'm wondering how they're going to handle. We were just talking about it in the break. It's like, Kyle, there's no way Kyle's going to be on the sidelines for that game, though, right? Like, obviously, there'd be no version of that because you don't do it. So in the short term, it's going to be very weird. It's going to be very awkward with these programs in the immediate right now, and how the dust settles after that, and how programs deal with that. I mean, Kalani had a massive win, and BYU had a massive win last month, and that could be absolutely punch in the gut if Jay Hill leaves that program.
Yes, I would say yes to all of that. That's what bowl games are these days, and it is cutthroat, and you have to keep your guys, and people with more prestige and more money are going to come for your guys. When Chris Hill was the athletic director a lifetime ago, when all the rules were different, he said he always tried to keep a list of 5 coaches for each of his key jobs, because he said there's only 2 options. Your coach isn't good, it's going poorly, and you're going to have to make a change and get somebody better, or it's going well and somebody with more money and more prestige is going to hire your coach away. And then you better have somebody ready. So you better always be ready. So while yes to everything you just said, it's like the line from The Godfather. This is the business we chose,
Mm-hmm.
and this is how the business works now. And you got to always be on your guard. People always want your people, and maybe they'll be able to fight and keep some of their people. Maybe they won't. And these are always so personal. And I will say this: for all these decisions, you never know what's going on in somebody's life.
That's true.
You never know personally what's going on. We don't all air everything. So people can make decisions for lots of reasons. But certainly we know some of the factors, right? Money is going to be a factor. Michigan's going to have more of it. However, BYU's got pretty deep pockets if they value somebody. But Michigan's got prestige. You have a legit chance to win a national championship at Michigan. Sure, the schedule's tough, and you're playing 4 playoff teams. But you got resources, and you have the ability to get in as a large. Right now, Big 12 has never had anyone get in as a large. So if anyone wants to go to Michigan, as much as I want to say there's a Power 4, down not very deep. I think most of us know it's a power 2 and another 2 and then the group of 5. Well, 6, I guess, now with the Mountain West and Pac-12 and everything. Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting for each one of these, and which player goes and which player stays. One of the things about being a good coach that Kyle was good at doing was identifying good young coaches. So you don't get to hold on to people forever. At some point, this is going to be an opportunity for another good young coach whether it's Kyle at Michigan or whether it's Morgan at Utah or whether it's Kalani at BYU or anybody else when the dominoes start falling. Are you good at identifying good young coaches? At one point, nobody knew who Jay Hill was. At one point, nobody knew who Kalani was. At one point, nobody knew who Morgan was. I mean, I distinctly remember because Kalani went to Arizona, so he was off my radar when he started coaching. And I knew it was at Southern Utah. And I remember when he got hired at Utah, I remember thinking, that was pretty fast. I wonder how good he is. And Kyle didn't have the rep at that point. It was more, they didn't have a lot of money, and these are the coaches who, A, wanted the job, and B, they could afford, and there weren't a lot of options because they spent all their money to keep Kyle. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it. So, hey, identify good young coaches. It looks like a problem in the moment, but problems are opportunities. So, and this is why you get the big money. Kalani's getting big money. Yep. Morgan's getting big money. So identify good young coaches if you lose some. It'll suck. You can take about 30 seconds to feel sorry for yourself, and then you got to go make a good decision.
To your point about next year's schedule, by the way, the only two, that you look at on the Michigan schedule that you go, okay, well, you got those. Western Michigan and UTEP are your 2 out-of-conference home games. But you're right, Oklahoma comes to Ann Arbor on September 12th. They have in their Big Ten schedule that's now 9 teams. Obviously, they play those 9 conference games. Indiana and Iowa, Penn State. They go to Oregon, and they go to Ohio State. I mean, it's not going to be easy next year. It's not going to be easy the year after. I mean, they're going to have to play these. And okay. right off the bat, you can't tell me that Kyle Whittingham's not licking his chops when he sees that kind of stuff, though, too.
Right. I mean, is it hard? Absolutely. But, again, this is the business you chose.
Yep.
And as I said once a long time ago to a news director who was complaining, like, hey, you're the one who wanted that job. So, what you signed up for, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, well, we already know Witt's going to be compensated very, very, very well. It's going to be interesting to see what the fallout is when we find out about how it went down that he left the University of Utah, if there was a buyout involved, all those questions that could be answered at some point thanks to a grandma request. I'm sure we're going to be able to do it and figure all those things out. And then when the dust settles in 10 years, Witt is still going to be the guy with his name possibly on the field at some point. I don't think that I don't think that his legacy is going to get affected long term. It's still going to get looked at.
Now
hard feelings forever?
Segment, Alex. There could be some hard feelings here. Was he pushed out? Yeah, he didn't let him use the word retire in the press release.
Yep.
And you got to appreciate that because he's being honest with us. If he said he was retired and then he took the job, we'd all go, what? Yeah. You said you retired. But he made it super clear, and you played the bite coming back. He was clear when he talked. It's like,
let's just say he was pushed.
Yeah, I think PK said the word prodded. PK liked to use the word prodded. Yeah.
Okay, prodded. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff now about Mark Harlan, and man, this is a big part of this guy's job and a big part of this guy's legacy. But there's a lot of assumptions built into most of the posts I'm seeing right now. There are plenty of coaches who held on too long and stayed too long. There are, and if Whittingham goes to Michigan and it doesn't go great. And if Morgan identifies good young coaches, even if he loses people and it goes well, it's going to be like, well, they made the right decision at the right time. And it all played out, and we know. And if it goes great for Kyle and it goes great for Morgan, it'll be like, well, they didn't know how much longer they want to lose Morgan, and Morgan had a good run. It was still the right decision. It's like Montana moving on to Kansas City back in the day, and Steve Young won a Super Bowl. And Montana still had something in the tank, man. He took Kansas City to the AFC title game. But I get why the Niners did it. Young played more. He was younger. I get it. Now, there is the other scenario, which is what people are alluding to. Morgan struggles, and Kyle goes to Michigan and crushes it, wins a Big Ten title or a national title or both or whatever. And it's like, what were you doing? But it's all out there. We got to let the games play out. And I don't think we have to wait 10 years. We'll know a lot more in 3 to 5 for sure. Maybe we'll know a lot in 1. Who knows?
DJ, we appreciate it. Live from the shores of Chesapeake Bay. David James reporting. We appreciate it. There you go. DJ, of course, we've already had PK. We've already had DJ on. We've already had Scotty and Hans. We're anticipating Jeremiah Jensen at some point coming on here. We're going to have our Ute insider, Steve Bartle, join us as well. We'll reach out, try to get as many of these names in the hopper as possible, and the possibility of University of Utah former head coach Kyle Whittingham. And as ESPN put it, Utah legend Kyle Whittingham considering that job at Michigan, and it looks like it's all but a done deal for at least him getting in there. Might be some details of assistance, and of course, there's the money, Lloyd, you have to consider. We've got a lot to talk about, though. We've got tons to jump into, and we'll have Jeremiah Jensen on at some point in this next hour. We're going to get Steve Bartle, like we said, and we'll get it all to you here. And if something does become official, you're going to hear it right here on the KSL Sports Zone. We'll jump out to a break. More to go, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.